Hello and welcome to today's video, where today we are going to be looking at multiplication of integers and getting an understanding about why negatives times negatives equal positives. So let's start with a real quick equation. Let's say that we've got -2 times -3. Now when we look at this, what does this mean? Well, this means we have -2 groups of -3. So I'm going to draw that out here. So we've got a group of 3, and they are negatives. And then we've got another group of 3, but they are negatives. Now, what confuses a lot of students is that you've got this extra negative here. So technically what I have here is I've got 2 groups of -3, which kind of got rid of that minus sign, but that minus sign just doesn't disappear because I want it to disappear. What it's actually telling me, if we think of what this negative sign means, it means to take away. It means to subtract. So what this question is really telling us is that we are looking at subtracting 2 groups of -3. Now think about this. We did some zero principle stuff when we talked about addition and subtraction of integers. And zero principle actually does work in this instance as well. So if we were going to subtract 2 groups of -3, how would we do that? Well, zero principle tells us that if we had 2 groups of -3, we could get rid of them by adding 2 groups of +3. So what happens is we create a group of +3 and another group of +3. And then what happens is it cancels out these negatives. So these 3 negatives will cancel these guys out, and these 3 negatives are canceled out by those 2 positives, leaving us with what we have left, and essentially is our answer. So in order to subtract 2 groups of -3, we're simply putting 2 groups of 3 there, and if we counted them out, 3 and 3, multiplication is a fast way to add, 3 and 3 is 6. So the answer for this becomes 6. All right, now let's look at another one. We'll go over here. Let's talk about, let's say we've got -2 groups of, let's say 5, -2 groups of 5. If we draw it out again, what we have here is we've got 5 negatives and 5 negatives. And again, conceptually, what it's telling us to do, oh, these are not negatives, sorry, these are positives. Conceptually, what it's telling us to do is we are subtracting 2 groups of 5 positives. And very much like we did over here, in order to get rid of, subtract, get rid of these 2 groups of positives, what we need to do is we need to zero principle it out. So we're going to put in some groups of negatives. Enough that we can cancel all of these guys out. So these becomes groups of negatives. And what happens is, again, we cancel out these pink positives because there are 5 of those negatives here and 5 of those negatives here. So they cancel it all out, and it leaves us with our answer. In order to subtract 2 groups of +5, we really need 2 groups of -5. And 2 groups of -5, when we, again, add them together, 5 and 5, our answer becomes 10. -10, rather. Because you've got -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6, -7, -8, -9, -10. So when we're looking at multiplication of integers, please remember that the best way to go about doing this is to think of the way that the question is being asked. Minus 2 groups of -3, or negative, subtract, 2 groups of +5, and just do the opposite, and what you're left with, simply your answer. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment or drop me a line. Thanks very much.